I sent the message at 11:37 p.m. on a Sunday, the kind of hour that smells like laundry detergent and bad ideas. It was 4 words. Hey. Long time. I stared at the typing dots like they were a slot machine. Nothing. The profile photo on his Instagram was a picture of a trailhead I didn't recognize. He'd never loved photos of his own face. I zoomed in until the pixels went blurry and then back out until the dots turned into a polite scene. The last time I'd seen Evan in real life, I was 22, standing in my mother's kitchen, shaking so hard the cabinet knobs rattled. The dress fittings were done. The vendor folders, band contracts, florist samples, chair counts, were stacked on the table like a tower of proof that we were going to be a real family. My mother had labeled everything with sticky notes in her handwriting that looks like patience. It was 2 weeks out. I picked up my keys, told my mother I was going to the pharmacy for bobby pins, and drove until the gas light came on. I did not go home. People talk about cold feet like a cute metaphor. Mine were ice blocks. Somewhere between the cake tasting and the final payment for the venue, a panic I did not yet have words for set up camp in my throat. I come from a house where the adults made promises they couldn't keep. My dad promised to stop gambling. He taught me to count cards over scrambled eggs and then sank my college fund into a poker table, where no one used their real names. Mom promised she'd leave if he didn't change. She didn't leave. She learned how to make the mortgage due dates juggle. Evan wasn't my dad. That's the irony that is so sharp I can taste it 16 years later. He was the opposite. Evan was a man who did what he said he was going to do. He is the person you call when your tire blows on the highway, and you don't want a lecture about routine maintenance. He proposed in the park in front of my favorite bench after a walk that smelled like rain and dog fur. He asked my mother for her blessing. He put a ring on my finger that had belonged to his grandmother, a plain solitaire in a setting that had seen wars and graduations and 47 Christmases. My mother cried into the dish towel and said, "You picked a good one, Lena." I believed her. I also didn't believe I deserved that kind of quiet. So I left. I turned my phone off. I rented a room from a friend of a friend in Cleveland because it was far and ugly and no one was going to run into me in the produce aisle and ask about the seating chart. I wrote an email to Evan 2 days later after my hands stopped vibrating. It wasn't an explanation. It was a paragraph of cowardice dressed up as apology. I said I needed space. I said it wasn't him. I said I would mail back the ring once I felt stable. He replied once. "Are you safe?" And then nothing, because I had taken the right of explanation with me when I drove away. I did mail back the ring, months later, in a box I overinsured at the counter like a sinner hoping a policy could absolve me. I addressed it to his sister because she answers emails and I couldn't bear to imagine him opening something that heavy. She signed for it and replied with one line, "Received." That was the entire story of my guts. In the years since, I learned how to name what happened to me. Anxiety that felt like possession, a family model that equated love with chaos, a habit of sprinting away from kindness because kindness, if it turned out to be temporary, would kill me slower. I saw therapists with framed degrees and waiting rooms that smelled like peppermint. I read books with the word attachment in the title and nodded until my neck hurt. I dated 3 men for a year each and never got close enough to meet their parents. I got a job in HR, which is either penance or the universe's best joke. I learned to like rules because they keep meetings from becoming courtrooms. I built a life that worked on paper. It did not ask me for anything I couldn't give. That was the problem. Sunday night, the algorithm coughed up a photo of a hiking trail with a caption about switchbacks and an inside joke I could hear in his voice. I did the thing you do when you know you shouldn't. I clicked. I found his page. No selfies. A lot of trailheads, some slow-motion video of stir-fry in a cast iron, one picture of a pair of little sneakers next to a pair of trail running shoes with the caption, "Tempo run plus toddler pace equals perfect Saturday." My stomach did a quiet twist and then settled. He had a kid. Of course he did. Evan was born to be somebody's dad. I wrote, "Hey. Long time." Because what else do you write to the man you left with a stack of vendor receipts and a sister at his door saying, "She dropped off the ring. She didn't stay?" The dots came back to life 15 minutes later. "Lena." Then a long pause. Then, "What do you need?" I stared at the screen with that stupid, dangerous hope that speaks in italics. People get second chances, I told myself. People grow. People write essay-length apologies and get featured on the Instagram account of the wedding photographer they hired the second time around. I could hear my own narrative voice turning what I did into the first act of a redemption arc. Just wanted to say hi, I typed, which was a lie so small it made the word cowardice blush. Deleted. I owe you an apology, I typed. Sat with it. Sent it. Accepted, he wrote. I blinked. That wasn't how this was supposed to go. Could we meet? I typed, because if the apology was going to land anywhere, I needed a face to see it happen. Another pause. My wife would need to be comfortable with that, he wrote. What exactly are you asking for? Wife. The word sat in my chest like a paperweight. I typed, closure, and immediately hated myself for how therapy-scented it sounded. I typed, I want to say I'm sorry like an adult, which was closer to the truth. He left me on read for 20 minutes. I put my phone face down and did a loop of my apartment, picking up cups I'd already washed and checking locks I knew were locked. When I came back, there it was. We can do coffee at 4 p.m. Saturday. Public place. 45 minutes. I'll let Amy know. No surprises. Okay, I wrote, and then thank you. And then because I wanted to ruin it. You remember my coffee order? Deleted. I sent only the thank you. All week I practiced what I would say. I wrote bullet points like a coward, then threw them out because bullet points don't persuade people you gutted. I told my therapist, who did that neutral nod that therapists do when they've been paid enough to be unshockable. What do you want out of the conversation? She asked. Forgiveness, I said, and winced at how needy it sounded. From him, she asked. Yes, I said. And from yourself? She asked. I'm not there yet, I said, which was true and not noble. Saturday, I wore a sweater that looks like competence, and put my hair in a bun because correction feels more adult when your hair doesn't move. I arrived 10 minutes early and sat at a corner table in a tiny cafe, where the owner writes the pastry names on the glass case in curlicues. I ordered decaf because I didn't need help shaking. At exactly 4, the door opened and he walked in, carrying a canvas tote like the dad he is. He looked older and exactly like himself. His hair was shorter, his shoulders wider. There were 2 lines at the corners of his eyes that I hadn't earned the right to map. He wore a gray sweatshirt, and a look I realize now I used to mistake for shyness. Come. Hi, I said, standing too fast. Hi, he said, in the voice that used to pull me back from the edge of my own nervous system. He sat. He didn't offer a hug. I admired that. It told me we were going to be precise. Thank you for meeting me, I said. You're welcome, he said. He set the tote on the chair next to him. Amy knows I'm here. She knows who you are. We agreed. This is closure, not a rewrite. The way he said her name did not make me jealous. It made me respect him more. You know how some people say my wife like my ball and chain? He said Amy the way you say home. I'm sorry, I said, before I lost my nerve. I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry I didn't give you a real goodbye. I'm sorry I made you call vendors alone. I'm sorry I put your family in the position of having to answer for me. I am sorry I mailed your grandmother's ring like it was a library book. I am sorry that the kindest person I've ever loved got to find out the pit in my stomach could swallow a whole life. He blinked once. People who have integrity blink like that when they collect themselves. Thank you, he said. I believe you. He didn't reach across the table and tell me he'd thought of me every day. He didn't pull out a list of grievances and read them until I bled. He let silence do a lap. Then he said, I don't have questions I need answered. I know who I was then. I know who you were. I know we were young and thought love was a crown we could wear to hide our family bruises. I almost made a joke about crowns because they make little paper crowns for kids at the bakery where I buy my Sunday croissants, but his face made me swallow it. This was not a joke scene. This was autopsy. He nodded at the tote. 2 things. One for you, one for me. I brought a copy of the letter I wrote my dad the night you left, because it explains why I'm here now and not somewhere else. He handed me a folded piece of paper, the kind you only buy at stationery stores you apologize for entering. The date at the top was the day after I left. The handwriting was neat and angry. He wrote to his dad about breaking a pattern of making women stay, by making the world small around them. He wrote about my father's poker table. He wrote about walking into the venue, alone, because he wanted to be the one who told them, not his mother. He wrote about the deposit, about how some contracts are human and some aren't, about how he did not argue because arguing is a way of pretending you still have control. I didn't send it, he said when I reached the end. My dad died before we got good at being honest with each other. But that's the night I decided that if someone leaves me quiet and clean, I won't dirty myself trying to make them stay. I didn't leave clean, I whispered. You mailed the ring, he said. That's cleaner than most. He pulled out a second thing, a manila folder with my handwriting on a post-it from 16 years ago. Banned. Final set list. My throat closed. You left this in a box of receipts your mom gave me when she cleaned out some things a year later, he said. I kept it because it felt like proof that once upon a time we thought Piano Man was going to make our cousins dance. I'm giving it back because I don't want to be the museum that stores your artifacts. I took it and felt a gratefulness I didn't deserve. You asked for closure, he said, careful again. Here's mine, I'm married. We have a 3-year-old who thinks rain is a conspiracy. I love my life. I am not angry at you. I am also not available to be the place where your regret goes to get cuddled. If there's amends I can accept that doesn't require me to become your priest, it's this. If anyone ever asks you about us, tell them the truth. About me, about the ring, about how vendor deposits work and how you don't get the money back because you changed your mind. Tell them you hurt someone who didn't deserve it. Then don't do it again. That's it. I can repay you for what you lost, I blurted, because money is the language of people who are terrified they can't pay a more expensive debt. The deposits, the vendors. I have savings. It's not enough, but... He shook his head. No. It's been 16 years. The money isn't the story. And you didn't steal from me. You left. Those are different verbs. If I took your money now, it would make me feel cheap, like I'm running a tab on pain I already closed. The ring. I started. You mailed it back, he said. It was my grandmother's. I never had to call a lawyer about a conditional gift law, or take you to small claims. I tell that part to men who want to be angry on my behalf. I say, she returned the ring. It makes them unclench. You gave me back the one thing I couldn't replace. That helped. The cafe owner flipped the open sign to closed, and started wiping the glass case with the curlicue letters. My 45 minutes were nearly up. Does she know about me? I asked because I am a small person sometimes, and I needed to know if I was a ghost in their kitchen. Amy knows I was engaged at 22, he said. She knows you left. She doesn't need your name to love me. She doesn't hold my history over my head like a behavior chart. We have our own fights. They aren't about you. That should have humiliated me. Instead it relieved me. I do not want to haunt anyone's house anymore. I have a therapist who says closure is a solo sport, I said, trying to be clever and failing. But I appreciate this doubles match. He smiled then, small. I'm not against good lines, he said. I just don't want them to be a way around the truth. Can I apologize to your mother? I asked because the thought of her hands labeling folders with sticky notes still set something right in me. She doesn't need it, he said gently. She has watched you apologize to yourself in the local paper over the last decade. My aunt cuts things out. She makes little collages. She knows you're okay. That's enough. We stood. He did not hug me. He did something more adult. He shook my hand like a person, not an idea. Congratulations on your family, I said, meaning it harder than I meant anything in a while. Congratulations on choosing to say the words, he replied. Outside, the air had that wet wool smell it gets before rain. I stood on the sidewalk with the manila folder in my tote, and my chest doing a weird combination of relief and nausea. I wanted to cry like a person in a movie. I didn't. I went home and made eggs because eating is a hack for feeling your feet. Over the next week, I did the boring parts of amends, the ones that don't get you likes. I wrote emails to the florist and the venue and the band from 16 years ago. Yes, most of them were still in business. No, none of them remembered me. I wrote anyway. I said, I made your job harder in 2009. I am sorry. Thank you for being kind to a man who showed up to cancel alone. One replied. We always try to be kind. And the sentence cracked something open in me that all my reading on attachment had not. People were kind to him when I wasn't. The world didn't break. It bent around him with a little grace. That made the story easier to hold. I called my mother. She answers the phone like a person bracing herself. I told her I met Evan for coffee. She inhaled like she was going to cry and then didn't. Good, she said. He deserved that. Then after a beat, do you feel better? I feel like I didn't cheat this part, I said. I wanted to shake you back then, she admitted. I also wanted to take your hand and run with you because I know that feeling in your stomach like a tornado. She paused. I'm glad you stopped trying to outrun the weather and learned to name it. I blocked myself from looking at his page again by unfollowing and muting, and then handing my phone to my friend Mara like a sponsor. If you see me creeping, slap my hand, I said. She took the phone and put it face down on my coffee table. We can just go outside, she said. It's nice out. We did. We walked to the park where he proposed and sat on a bench that was not a shrine and talked about her new job and my boss's weird way of pronouncing ladings, and the fact that the ice cream truck song is objectively creepy. Healing is mostly errands and weather. In December, an envelope arrived in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a photo. A real printed photo on matte paper. Of a small boy in a raincoat standing in front of a puddle with the kind of grin that makes you want to invest. On the back, in neat handwriting, it said, he likes rain. He has my ankles. No need to write back. I put it on my fridge with a magnet shaped like Ohio and felt something in me unclench. He did not owe me that. He did it anyway. Not to be sweet. To be complete. Sometimes people ask if I think he won. The question makes me smile because it turns our lives into a game some men play at bars when their teams are losing. He won by living the life he wanted. All verbs, all days. Without asking me to narrate it to make it real. He won by not needing my apology to be okay, but accepting it so I could be. He won the day he walked into the venue alone and refused to be cruel. He just kept winning after that in small, repeatable acts. Learning how to make stir-fry, running 3 miles with a toddler's sense of time, saying his wife's name like a soft place to land. Did I learn anything besides the obvious? That apologies with outcomes attached are negotiations, not apologies. That giving someone back the one thing they cannot replace is the bare minimum. That vendors are not villains for keeping deposits. They are businesses that staff to Saturday, and the world is not out to punish you when your heart misfires. That closure is a thing you do, not a thing you get. That if you ever feel the urge to vanish, say the sentence you are trying to avoid. I am scared. It buys you more than gas. 2 weeks after the coffee, I pulled the manila folder from my tote and threw away the set list. Not as an act of defiance. Billy Joel has forgiven us all for worse. But as a way of admitting that the museum closed. I kept the letter he'd written his dad. I keep it in the drawer where I put stamps and warranty papers and my passport. When I open it to mail rent or check a serial number, I see the neat handwriting and remember that a person can decide, privately, to be different, and then be it every day without applause. I don't know if I'll ever get married. I don't say that with a performative shrug anymore. I say it like a person who finally got honest with herself about the way she uses doors. I do know that if I get engaged again and feel the pit in my stomach spin up, I will not call it bad gut instinct, because my parents taught me to fear quiet. I will go to therapy that week. I will tell the man I love that my nervous system is a haunted house, and I need him to stand with me in the foyer while we turn on lights. I will not drive until the gas light comes on. The last line of Evan's letter to his dad is the one I keep on a post-it above my sink. I will not use someone else's worst day to teach me what kind of man to be. I wrote underneath it, in my Messier hand. I will not use someone else's best self as a reason to run. Because that's what I did. I loved a good man and I got scared and I turned good into trap. Then, 16 years later, I knocked on the door of a house I didn't build, and a woman I'd never met let me sit in her kitchen by letting her husband meet me in a cafe. That is a gift I cannot tag anyone in. It does not look good on a grid. It just feels like air. If you are reading this looking for a way to get your ex back after you left them at the cliff of a life they built for you, don't. Go say, I'm sorry, anyway because the saying is for the world you knock sideways. Then leave them alone. Go build a different kind of cliff. One with a railing. Go learn recipes. Go pay your deposits on time and accept policies like weather. Go text your mother and ask her a question about the way she stayed. Go leave your phone in another room. Go do boring, steady verbs until the drama in your chest gets bored and moves out. He has a trailhead, I have a bench. He has ankles that match a small person's in rubber boots. I have plants that finally stop dying because I remember to water them and open the blinds. We both have what we needed that day in the cafe. Proof that we could sit across from the mess we made and use our mouths for something other than excuses. I made eggs that night after the coffee, ate them standing up because I didn't feel like dishes. I turned off the light and for the first time in 16 years, Did not feel like the hallway between my bedroom and the bathroom was a tunnel to nowhere. It was just a hallway. I walked down it and slept.